new building, but its systems are already aged and need to be replaced. But if you can afford to renovate your building, you can absolutely afford the additional cost.
Green has to be green. Green can't be, oh, isn't it nice? If you really want to be successful, green puts money back in your customer's pocket. So you got half the country that goes, climate change, I want to do something, to help that. And you got the other half that says, I'll never go out of my way for climate change, but 100% of the country wants to save money. So if you make products that save money, you've got a winner.
Governor Granholm, our students who shot that piece, Christina Suelia and Devin Green, are here with us. Were they onto something? And as a governor with a lot of buildings in the state where you were governor, how do you pay for that?
Yeah, they're absolutely onto something. We say all the time that the cheapest fuel is the fuel that you don't have to use, right? The cheapest fuel is the fifth fuel or the first fuel, which is energy efficiency. The question that you raised, though, and this is the first thing I had, is maybe the Empire State Building can afford to front load some of the money to do that, and we'll get the payback over a long period of time. But can everyday citizens afford to pay that money up front? I have a feeling we're going to be talking a little bit about that this evening, but it is a very key question, because if you can answer that, when you really can put green back into people's pockets, then you will have cracked the code on how to make sure that energy efficiency is sustainable and is at scale for everyday citizens.
Tom Connolly, you're a businessman. Getting to the bottom line is what Malkin was all about. It's what that piece was all about. But how do you do that if you're not the Empire State Building?
Absolutely, and maybe it's not just about windows, it's about other forms of efficiency. You can change the windows in your house. You can change the way you consume electricity, turn off the lights, turn the thermostat down in the winter and up in the summer. First steps that all of us can take. I like this piece because it's participatory. There's a message in it for all of us, and we can start acting on it immediately.
What resonates in what you saw in it?
Well, a couple of things. I blogged on another initiative he's been working on in his company, which is to bring that model into schools. 300 schools they've committed to setting up energy audits that the students help to do. Maybe the students would actually see the boiler in their school, see where the heat comes from and try to understand ways to save money.
But I'm hearing from all of you, strong piece, good idea, serious
Absolutely.
innovation. You're all for it. Okay, well, there were a bunch of pretty cool ideas about buildings that came to us at Planet Forward. Juan Ontiveros manages energy and utilities at the University of Texas. Now, he told us that their focus on energy, combining, for example, plants using chilling station water to cool turbines, means that they spend the same amount of money on energy now as they did when the campus was half the size. A team at the University of Nebraska notes that 40% of energy in a typical home is wasted. That's right, it does nothing but go away. Well, they're working on what they call a wireless energy dashboard that will find and turn off the offending appliance.
We want to make sure this technology can fit in existing homes. So we want to cut down on amount of hardware we add to existing outlet. That's why we want to put this technology or a centralized sensor somewhere in the network which will do the communication.
Want to see the videos? Contribute your own? Go to Planet Forward on PBS.org. Kevin Sorais made it clear that windows are more than just pieces of glass, right? They're a key to insulation. And he says the gas between the panes is how that works. Well, how's that work? Here's cartoonist Mitch Butler from our Science Corner.
Making heat is easy. It's keeping it that's the trick. And that warm home of yours owes a lot to a simple gas called argon. Let's take a look back through a window in time. Argon was the first noble gas ever discovered, but soon he found that he was common, even more common in our atmosphere than carbon dioxide. And it turns out the word argon comes from the Greek meaning lazy or inert. Other gases like hydrogen would say, "Why are you so heavy and inactive? Why don't you do something?" Argon was searching for his place in the world. Flash forward. After the 1970s energy crisis, the world needs insulation between two panes of glass. Yes, the world needs a gas that doesn't react much, and a gas that's also heavy enough to be a good insulator. And argon knew that his moment had finally come. So while heat sources might get all the glory for getting you warm, it's insulators like argon who have found their place in the world by keeping you warm at night.
Oh, I want to be argon when I grow up. Well, on to our next idea. We were really struck by how many of these ideas focused on algae. Yes, algae. It makes a rock slippery, it grows on boats, but 89 octane? A couple of submissions to consider. First, we introduce our top online vote getter. The group came together for the EPA's P3 competition, People, Prosperity, and the Planet. Colleges compete to design sustainable solutions. From the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, you might call this the Dream Team.
Here's the dream. We transition away from this, and this, and this, and we grow the fuel we need, but in a way that doesn't disrupt food production, doesn't erode the soil, doesn't pollute. Starry-eyed researchers are busily trying to turn that dream into reality. This team from the University of Arkansas brought their idea to Planet Forward, and with a little help from their social network, it turned into something of a sensation.
We're looking at algae as a feedstock to make fuel.
Algae is a very small plant. It uses photosynthesis to convert energy from the sun.
Grows in the creeks and ponds.
In lakes and rivers.
It's just a tiny microorganism. It has the fastest life cycle of any plant.
Their mission? Turn algae, green goo or dried gunk, into butanol, a fuel that could go into your car tomorrow. There are two basic ways to produce fuel from algae.
One, using the fatty acids, or two, using the sugars, as in glucose.
The process that makes the butanol from algae using the sugars is much more efficient than the one that uses the oils.
Through fermentation using bacteria, we can produce butanol, which is an alcohol, and that is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Algae don't like to produce fatty acids and lipids. They want to produce sugars. That's what they do. We use an acid and heat process to break up the cells and release the sugars.
And when this sugar ferments, voila, you get butanol.
We think that we can start competing with butanol compared to ethanol, and we think we got a pretty cool process because of that.
Jamie Hestican is leading the student team, and taking on this challenge is like putting together an orchestra. Each person has to play their part just right.
You need the chemical engineers to do the separation, you need the biologists to do the fermentations, and you really need an electrical engineer to do the automation.
If it works, you get a small, portable, automated, low-cost device that could be used in water treatment plants, farms, any place that naturally generates large amounts of algae, or where there's a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus runoff, like the Chesapeake Waterway. An algae to butanol machine.
This is our prototype butanol production unit that is currently under construction. It's really as simple as loading algae into this component here, pressing a red button, and 3 days later, you'll have finished butanol coming out of this valve.
And since butanol can work with gasoline engines, I can put this fuel into the car and make it go.
The cost, about $25,000 for a unit that would make about 100 gallons of butanol a week. For farmers and others, maybe a lean, green revenue stream.
By having their own individual system, they're able to sell the butanol, make some money for themselves off of something that before was just a waste product.
Critics say the process produces carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas. Hestican and his students say ethanol production results in the same amount of CO2. And they say algae eats carbon while it makes the oil. So, a potential win-win in their view. In any case, it's a long haul from their device in the lab to butanol next door.
Tom Connolly, there's the team from Arkansas right there. You're DuPont. You actually have some experience with butanol. Grade them.
Yeah. I would say there's a lot to like about this project. First of all, algae has great potential, given its photosynthetic capability, to be a platform for biofuels for the future. Secondly, as you pointed out, butanol is an advantaged molecule for use in fuels. It is better than ethanol, and I think consumers will like it a lot. Now, I feel that between the algae and the biobutanol, there's more to it than just pushing that red button. So there are technical challenges, there are economic challenges, but I think it's a great team effort that you've put together, and I'm very much encouraged by what you talked about.
So that's algae as butanol, a prototype with potential maybe. We received an idea, though, from a company, all of this notwithstanding, that says it's actually close to bringing a fuel from algae to a refinery near you. Soon. Meet Mike Mendez, whose formula blends profit and passion.
As the world's gas tank fuels more and more cars, a trip to the pump raises a red flag for San Diego biologist Mike Mendez. He's convinced an alternative is needed now.
It's overwhelming, the energy situation. I mean, you know, we use 18 million barrels a day. Our whole economy, everything in life is based upon this liquid fuel. I have 3 boys. What's their future going to be like?
Mendez and his company, Sapphire Energy, brought us an algae-to-fuel idea they say can have real-world impact soon. They plan to begin commercial production in 2012.
So algae, using photosynthesis to actually make a fuel that can be directly put into your automobile, really is the solution.
But can a microscopic, one-celled plant create gas on a commercial scale?
The crude we pull out of the ground is ancient algae oil. So how can that little green algae help us solve our energy problem? It's very efficient at reproducing. So it absorbs sunlight energy, it absorbs CO2, and quickly converts those into things that look a lot like crude oil. So about 25% of every algae is oil, and it's oil in a form that we can extract it and turn it into energy.
But can what works in a university lab operate at a massive industrial scale?
You can't think like an industry where you're making a high-end product. This is not a high-end product. This is a commodity. You have to start thinking like a farmer, and I think that that's the way that we needed to approach the problem. Think like a farmer.
Sapphire's challenge is to transform a microscopic plant into a new farm crop.
Algae is one of the fastest growing plants on the planet. A plate like this contains millions of cells on it. What I can do with this plate is take a loopful, make multiple copies. These plates will give rise to a flask of dense culture. That dense culture can give rise to a 20-liter container such as this one, and I can grow this to density in a little over a week.
At each stage, technicians increase the size and scope of algae production. At the lab, their last test uses mini ponds that mimic an outdoor aquatic farm. To launch a commercial algae crop, Mike's team ships algae species to their test farm. But it's not a location you'd expect for a crop that grows in water.
New Mexico has 2 of the things we need most. The amount of sunlight we get here is probably the best in the world, definitely within the United States. Underground, there's a huge reservoir of salt water. You can't grow crops with it. You can't farm with it, and so it's not really used for anything. So these are 2 resources that's kind of unlimited here in the state. For us, this is the perfect place to grow algae.
But skeptics say growing algae outdoors is unreliable. Predators could eat the algae, and cold weather would kill it. For 2 years, Sapphire has been nurturing algae year-round at 20 acres of ponds in Las Cruces.
When we scale from 40 foot to 100 foot to 300 foot, the amount of production that we're getting is not only holding, but in a lot of cases we see improvement as we're scaling up.
Once the algae matures in ponds, it's separated from water by a centrifuge, creating a thick algae paste. And that paste gets fed into this test plant extractor that uses green solvents to crack open the algae cells and release oil.
There's already a technique for extracting algae. You take it directly from the soybean communities. It's more cost effective per kilogram than it would be to do what one gets for soybeans.
The result is green crude, but is it cost effective? Right now, algae costs roughly $7 per gallon, or $300 a barrel. But Sapphire will open a new 300-acre test plant in 2012, the largest in the nation. By producing 1 million gallons per year, they predict the price will drop.
Our target really is about $80 a barrel. That's where we believe is a good entry point into the market.
But can Sapphire reach its 1 million gallon production goal in just 2 years?
You know, it took 7,000 years for us to get corn to where it is today. We don't have 7,000 years to do this. I don't have 7,000 days. I'm going to have to do whatever it takes to speed up the process and get algae to the same kind of framework as corn is. You plant it, you harvest it, you know exactly what you're going to get per acre every year. You know, it has to be a real commodity, you know, not an experiment anymore.
Andy Revkin, pipe dream, real thing?
Niche.
Meaning?
maybe military fuel. You know, you got this will always. I just can't see this at the scale that would solve China's liquid fuel demand. Which, remember, there are 2 more billion people coming onto planet Earth, all needing oil, all needing the things oil provides for us. So I don't say this research shouldn't be going on, or even this investment at this scale. I just think it'll never be a game changer. The climate system will not notice.
Tom Connolly, never be a game changer?
Yeah, I would never say never. I agree with Andy that it is a challenge program, but if they can get down that learning curve, get down that cost curve, get to $80 a barrel equivalent, they can get there. But don't get me wrong, I think the technology challenges are significant, but I would never say never. But they really need to get the economics right in order to succeed.
Governor Granholm?
Yeah, we're spending $1 billion a day of our economy we're sending over to countries that may not be in our interests. If we don't focus on identifying solutions like this and helping these companies take it to scale and surmount some of those hurdles, then I think we are shooting ourselves in the foot as a nation. So to me, they're going to need a lot of capital. They're going to need a lot of upfront help getting that huge million gallon goal met. But we don't have the policy in place right now as a nation to do that, and I think that's where we need to go.
And we got to take away subsidies from things that don't make sense, like corn ethanol. 40% of our corn last year went to make ethanol in a world with spiking food prices. That's completely irrational.
Well, while you say that there's some real hurdles to algae, and there are, and Andy, while you mentioned that the military are playing around with it, which they are.
No, they're very serious. Yeah.
They are serious. All this talk about algae isn't just pie in the sky, because guess who's doing a lot of testing with it? It's the U.S. Navy. Now, students from this university, George Washington University, Lauren Hunnemeyer and Kimberly Kroll, crossed the Potomac to hear from an admiral about how the RCBX runs on a mix of algae biofuel and diesel.
That was a Wright brothers moment. For the RCBX, that was the first time that a marine vessel had been operated on algae-based biofuel. It had never been done before. When I was in the RCBX for that Wright brothers moment, I was in the jump seat right in the middle. It actually performed exceedingly well. No degradation to combat capability.
Imagine growing the fuel that powers the Navy, one of many ideas that comes to us online from students, scientists, entrepreneurs, and people in government, all wanting to address our energy challenge. Which do you think is the most innovative you're seeing here? Well, you'll vote soon enough. But next, here's a bright idea about solar. But this one doesn't sit on your roof. Not this idea. It's attached to your bank account.
Solar panels are not new. Neither is the power of the sun. But putting them together to power the planet in a big way has been an elusive goal. Environmentalist turned entrepreneur Danny Kennedy believes he can change the equation.
There's still a misconception that solar costs a lot of money. If financed, solar is less expensive than the conventional forms of electricity generation.
Kennedy was once with Greenpeace. Now he's about green business. Originally from Australia, he settled in the United States and co-founded Sungevity. His innovation, not to sell you those panels, but to get you to lease them.
The customer doesn't have to pay anything up front, and a bank effectively pays for about half of the value of the system.
For 200 years, we used a bad technology set, and in the next century, we're going to stop using it and move on to a much more sustainable, long-term, profitable solution, which is solar electricity and other forms of clean energy.
Sungevity claims to have answers to two of the big obstacles preventing widespread use of solar power in America.
One was the cost, particularly the upfront cost, and the other was sort of the hassle factor. So we've made the solar panels affordable and easy to access. What we've done is finance that and allow you to pay it off through the form of a lease.
Lease payments typically average about $50 a month. For that, the company maintains the panels. The bank, which finances Sungevity, keeps the solar tax breaks. The customer saves in utility bills. All thanks to the sun. Another innovation? The team uses Bing and Google Maps to streamline the design process.
My job is remote solar design. So we came up with this revolutionary method of being able to size systems remotely. So what we do is define certain areas of the roof, such as the roof ridge, gutter lines, create a model of the home. And with that, we can decide how many panels that we could fit on the roof. what size system would be ideal for the home, depending on their utility provider and usage. Standard industry procedure would be to send 1 or 2 people out to the house. They would climb up on the roof. We can do it much more accurately, getting all these variables that we need to put together the quote.
Kennedy's challenges going forward? His business model still relies on today's government subsidies, those tax credits and the like. They could dry up as the budget climate changes. Then there's the paperwork.
Because every town is different in terms of how you permit a solar project on a roof, and every utility is different. And there are 70 utilities in California alone. So as far as interconnection with the grid, there are different rules and regulations. We need that to be standardized so that there's common rules.
But Danny Kennedy is bullish on the sun.
It's what gives us all life, and you know, it's been falling down on Earth for billions of years, and if it falls on one of these things, this will produce electricity. It's like this magic machine that can take sunlight and convert it to this very useful thing in society called electricity, with no fuel, with no waste product, no pollution, no risk of spills or people having to go to war to get it, and it's now affordable for Americans, so it's a very exciting time to be selling solar.
Now, we're not going to claim credit for this, but since Danny Kennedy's video appeared on Planet Forward, he and other solar leasing companies have started to get more attention and are even now expanding into new regions of the country. Tom, Danny climbed off the roof to be with us here today. Is this the business plan? Leasing this stuff instead of buying it?
Yeah, I think solar has a great future, but today it is still more expensive than grid-connected power. And within the industry, they talk about bankability of a project. That is to say, can it attract financing to allow it to move forward? Because the cost is an upfront cost of installation. Sunlight is still free, so once you've got the system on your roof, you can generate electricity at low cost. So I think mechanisms to allow for financing have a good future. Now, from a consumer standpoint, everybody must be paid, so the bank, Sungevity, as well as the consumer need to participate in this, but I think coming up with novel schemes to finance solar is part of the path forward.
Governor Granholm. Governor Granholm. One word, yes. Deficits, yes. Right? Deficits require budget cuts. Those tax cuts in jeopardy?
The tax credits.
The tax credits?
I worry that they are. You know, what he has done here, and of course he's trying to be a bridge a little bit until the time when solar is at par with regular coal electricity. But what he's done is enable people to essentially put it on their roofs for free and then reap the benefit of the monthly savings. I think, what is it, a 15% savings is on average what they see. I mean, that is going green, and he's figured out how to make sure that that bridge exists until those subsidies are no more. There will be a short period of time when the subsidies are still going to be necessary, but the advances that are happening in photovoltaics, et cetera, are happening so quickly that they almost are at parity now. I mean, just a couple of years, they'll be there. And the financing mechanism will even be more beneficial then.
You're bullish on the sun, too?
Totally, but hey, can you do that for wind as well?
The sun is the ultimate power source, and this is interesting. Ken Zweibel, a solar expert here at the George Washington University, has written that the energy in sunlight striking the Earth for 40 minutes is equivalent to global energy consumption for a year. Well, researchers at Arizona State University in the Valley of the Sun, after all, have an idea factory that's working solar energy every which way they can. So our next finalist goes by the name Lightworks.
When you meet Gary Dirks, you might ask, why would a fossil fuel guy start chasing the sun?
There are people who will argue very convincingly that there's nothing to worry about. We can manage this system, little adjustment here, little adjustment there, it'll be all fine. Well, as in all the cases where you see some kind of a major event that really ultimately changes everything, it was fine until it wasn't.
Dirks was once a top executive at BP, president of BP Asia Pacific and BP China. Now he's at Arizona State University, director of a project called Lightworks, and he's chasing the sun.
The idea that nature knows how to do things more effectively with chemistry than we do is ingrained, so we really actually have been looking at ways to learn from nature.
ASU student Maura Gaughan captured the story for Planet Forward.
They're really looking ahead. They're looking towards the future. They're trying to find solutions to all kinds of problems, many of which we're aware of, some of which, we aren't even aware of yet.
One focus, cyanobacteria, using photosynthesis to turn sun into fuel. Another, non-biological photosynthesis, a search for materials to convert carbon dioxide and water to fuel using sunlight. For Lightworks, everything revolves around the sun.
And all of our fossil fuels, our coal, our oil, our natural gas, all those came from ancient photosynthetic products. So what we're doing is looking at the way photosynthesis carries out this process, learning the basic or fundamental scientific principles underlying photosynthesis, and then using those principles to design man-made or human-made synthetic systems that can carry out this process. Right now, science doesn't even understand the basic principles well enough to design a system that'll work, much less make it competitive economically with coal or natural gas or petroleum.
The Lightworks initiative has sparked a remarkably deep series of partnerships. More than 100 collaborators from industry, academia, and the national labs working together to research and commercialize new energy technologies powered by the sun.
We want to do the basic science. We want to be able to build devices, contribute with industry in particular, but with other partners around the country and literally around the world in creating new potential energy systems.
We got plenty of ideas on solar. One from Middlebury College in Vermont, where students are busily competing in the nationwide solar decathlon. Their solar home will be in Washington this fall. And a top vote getter on Planet Forward focused on the heavens, the sun, and a nun. Caldwell College student Lucienne Reyes visited Genesis Farms and sister Miriam McGillis.
These panels went up in 2004, and they were designed to give us 100% of our energy needs. They're not quite 100%, but they are such an immense improvement over the bills that we would have had in the past.
For all the talk about solar, how do those panels really work? Science answers the question.
It's the Science Corner. I'm cartoonist Mitch Butler. Our world revolves around the sun. Plants make their energy from that sun. So why can't we? Well, we can. Here's how. 8 minutes after leaving home, sunlight shows up here on Earth and hits a solar panel on your rooftop. That solar panel is really just a sandwich of semiconductor material, like silicone, and metal and glass. Now, the tricky part of the sandwich is right here in the middle, with a negative charge on one side and a positive charge on the other. When sunlight hits the meaty part of the sandwich, it excites electrons, which are pulled by the charges in the silicone into the wire conductor, down into your house to bake a cake and run your electric nose hair trimmer. And if solar panel prices continue to fall, someday soon your energy world could revolve around the sun before the sun sets on fossil fuels.
And which one of these ideas will be a winner? You'll be voting soon, but as we introduce our next finalist, recall the depiction of Earth overrun by trash in that animated film a couple of years ago, WALL-E, Trash Out of Control? Well, how do we prevent that? Maybe, how do we use that? Here's a Planet Forward member who thinks serious trash can turn into a day at the races.
Linda Rose Myers starts with some simple questions.
What's getting landfilled in your town? Tires, discarded carpet, yard and forest waste, car bumpers and dashboards?
Myers is the president of Ecotech Fuels. Their big idea, a deal with the Oglala Sioux tribe in South Dakota, where they'll build a high-tech trash-to-fuel gasification plant.
Got ag waste? We'll digest it. Methane is one of our favorite things. What about wood and asphalt from construction demolition? We'll take it.
The $70 million plant will consume up to 100 tons of trash a day. They'll separate the trash and produce high-octane mixed alcohol fuels they call Torkazine.
The final product is a clean, high-performance synfuel.
High-performing enough to be a racing fuel. And they say their fuel, billed as less corrosive and cleaner burning, could fetch up to $17 a gallon at the track. While converting trash like this does take energy, advocates say it's better and more energy efficient than leaving all that stuff in a landfill. Myers wasn't the only waste-to-fuel idea submitted to Planet Forward. Students from Elon University and a company called Atlantic Biomass Conversions, among others, proposed turning trash into various forms of gas. As for Ecotech, Linda Rose Myers recalls she was struck by the poverty and desolation of the Sioux Reservation when she saw it as a child. Now she says she's hoping to do green business there, create jobs, and give back. 10% of the profits will go to the tribe. Construction on the plant could start this summer.
Governor Granholm, Linda Rose is with us here, and I know you like garbage too.
I love this. Yes, I really do, because we have so much feedstock with this, right? So many landfills, so much trash that we throw away. And can you imagine converting that waste to the thing that powers your car? She's on to something so huge, in my opinion. And I've actually talked with a number of venture capitalists who are looking at this trash, municipal waste, garbage, to energy in your home. Can you imagine if you could take your trash compactor, put your waste in, and at the other end comes gasoline for your car? Eventually, we may be there, but she's onto something huge there, because truly, how much more can you find? I mean, there's so much trash everywhere.
I don't like landfills any more than the governor does, and I think there's got to be a better way. But my vote would be to convert it directly to electricity and use that electricity to run your car. I think going through that liquid fuel step is a bit complicated. We may get there eventually, but that's a trickier step than just turning it into steam, generate the electricity, and we'll run the cars on that.
I'm all about that too. Let's try it off.
Yeah.
Well, in Europe, Europe is about as toxin-averse as any place on Earth, but they've gotten very comfortable with trash-to-energy plants in big cities. There was just one in the news recently that blows steam rings representing its carbon dioxide emissions, which gets smaller when it's more efficient, and it's got a ski slope on it. And if you can do that in Europe efficiently, it's kind of a bizarre thing, but it's an attraction instead of a menace.
In many countries in Europe, they don't even have landfills, like in Sweden. They just don't have any landfills. They use all of it. Great skiing.
Well, there's lots of trash talk on Planet Forward, and Dan Gray sent us a story about a race car he likes that's powered entirely by used cooking oil. And one of the most engaging videos we received from the Columbia University chapter of Engineers Without Borders, also a top vote getter on the site. Now, their idea just may be a royal flush. In a remote village in Ghana, they installed a special toilet to separate waste, improve hygiene, make fertilizer, and they hope energy to power a water system. Now, I hope you're taking notes, because in just a few minutes, you're going to choose the Planet Forward innovator from among these selections. We're going to follow that innovator online and on television to see if that idea can really gain traction and make a difference. So let's talk about transportation. It represents about a quarter of America's greenhouse gas emissions. This year, you'd have to be living under a rock not to know that some new electric vehicles have made it to the showrooms. But is there an infrastructure to support them? Our finalist resides in the smallest state in the Union, Rhode Island, a perfect place to see what it'll take to get ready to go electric.
The new electric cars are here. Charge! But while many think they're the future, others wonder, because the batteries have limited range. If you're not at home, where will you fill up? Planet Forward member Zachary Hare posted a video of an idea he thinks can be a game changer. And if you build it, they will come approach to the plug-in challenge.
On August 22, 2010, the first electric vehicle charging station was installed in the state of Rhode Island. The unveiling ceremony was a local media spectacle. It featured a speech by the governor.
This is the beginning of something you're going to see.
The charging station is a significant victory for local organizations like Ocean State Clean Cities and Project Get Ready Rhode Island.
It's unusual that you have environmentalists and automakers working hand in hand together and preparing the community for a new product launch.
Meet Al Dahlberg. His innovation is powered by his coalition to advocate for and build the EV infrastructure. Dahlberg isn't a car guy. In fact, he drives a clunker. But he is father of two, consumed with the future, and the driving force behind Project Get Ready in Rhode Island, where he and I took in the car show and saw just what he's up against.
We go from this great Corvette muscle car, right, to this thing here, the Chevy Volt. Right. But Al, this is the only plug-in electric vehicle at this show.
Right.
I mean, we know about the Leaf, but there are others, but it's still a lonely place.
But when you come back next year, there'll probably be 5. And 2 years from now, there may be 10. And 5 years from now, there may be a dozen.
Dahlberg's EV Coalition includes engineers and electricians, professors and students, small businesses and large companies.
We got them together, formed a strategic plan, and have started putting that plan in place. And one of the first steps was building the infrastructure.
With more research and incentives, we can break our dependence on oil with biofuels and become the first country to have 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2050.
How do we get to 1 million electric vehicles in just 4 years?
That's an ambitious goal. There'll be a good set of early adopters. After that, to make this more widespread, to get to that 1 million goal, we need to start building the infrastructure, the charging spots, so people have confidence that they can use these vehicles wherever they go.
You can barely buy a plug-in today.
Well, it's got to go hand in hand. We've got to develop it at the same time.
Even lonelier than the Chevy Volt at the auto show is Dahlberg's big accomplishment, located in a furniture store parking lot, paid for entirely with private dollars and waiting patiently for customers. It's the first and only public charging station in Rhode Island.
And how long did it take you to get this thing in here?
A few months.
Show me how this works, or will work.
Well, you pull your car up, you go inside, you get a SWAT key like this.
Right.
You flash it across, and then it unlocks, and then you disconnect the plug and put it right in your car.
And if my car is mostly on empty, you know, down there, how long will this take to charge?
If your battery is totally dead and you have a 100-mile range, this will take about 8 hours.
8 hours. I mean, that's an awful lot of shopping.
But if you're going shopping here for an hour or two, you'll get plenty of charge to go 10, 20, 30 miles.
This glorified outlet may not look like much, but just getting it here was a breakthrough.
What makes this special different?
Well, it's special because it's the first public charge spot in the state. And it was done through a partnership of 2 companies, Carty's Furniture and Arpin Van Lines. And they saw that this is a technology of the future. And the challenge is getting other companies to step up. Right now, we're not in a position where we can rely on government to build out this infrastructure. It's going to take time. We have to start somewhere.
Project Get Ready is part of an initiative from the nonprofit Rocky Mountain Institute. Its goal, to recruit volunteers from 20 cities across the country to become advocates for plug-in electric vehicles and public charging stations. Dahlberg's goal is modest, but ambitious. Within 5 years, 2% of registered vehicles in Rhode Island should be electric. And he takes all of this very personally.
I look at my kids and I think, what kind of future will they have in this country? And a future that's completely addicted to oil the way we are now is not a future that's going to be prosperous or safe for my kids. So I see this as the best way to provide for American energy independence.
Andy Revkin, Al Dahlberg is there in the front row. How do you do?
Well, first of all, I'm a native Rhode Islander. I was born, raised, educated in the state, so I am totally biased. And not only that, but my family came of being through a furniture store, too. So like, it's really resonating. So that's all resonating. Although, again, you know, I do think in the end, the efficiency, things like batteries and cost. It takes, and also I wrote a few years ago how much time and money it takes to turn over a car fleet. The existing cars are going to be out there for a long time. I love this stuff, the experimentation, all of this is fabulous. And the thing that will be the game changer, maybe any one of these, but it may be something that will completely surprise us, and that's what's kind of exciting about it.
Governor Granholm.
Yeah, I have a bias about this because I'm the governor of Michigan, and we are converting these great domestic automakers to electric. In fact, General Motors just announced it was putting a second shift on the factory that is producing the Volt. This is about jobs, it's about energy independence. I think that getting the infrastructure in is a long-term strategy, but a car like the Volt, which has electric plus an engine attached to it so that there's not the range anxiety associated with, could be a part of the bridge to getting to that infrastructure.
Well, there's a video from another guy, by the way, who claims that he's the only solar food truck on the East Coast, speaking of electric. The chef tells us he'll recoup his upfront costs of those panels on his roof in about 5 years. When you drive an electric car, if you haven't done that, and we've done it, you'll notice that it starts faster from a dead stop than your gasoline-engined car. How does that work? Again, the answer comes from the science.
You know, when it comes to hot rods, electric cars They're kind of the new kid on the block. Gas-guzzling muscle cars have been doing 0 to 60 for decades, which is quite a feat, actually, because igniting fossil fuel and turning it into mechanical energy is a complicated process with lots of moving parts. And electric motors? Well, let's take a look under the hood. This baby turns on at the speed of electricity. It's literally like flipping a light switch. So who are you gonna put your money on? Yep, turns out that the simplicity of that electric car might make it the leader of the pack. When those magnets are on, they're on from the word go. Immediate torque and pushing power. And that combustion engine with all its mechanical parts, well, it takes a little while for it to be really on. Some electric cars can do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. Sure, combustion engines might have more power once they get going, but these electric hot rods have surprising muscle when the light turns green. With the Science Corner, I'm cartoonist Mitch Butler.
Okay, Governor, your next muscle car can be an electric car.
I'm all about it, Chevy Volt.
Some pretty good ideas here.
A lot of good ideas.
All right, so now it's time to vote. To review, let's look at our 7 finalists here. Kevin Surace and the Empire State of Energy. Algae to butanol from the University of Arkansas. Green crude from Mike Mendez. Leasing the Sun from Danny Kennedy. The Lightworks Project at Arizona State University. Linda Rose Meyer's Trash to Fuel Project. And Al Dahlberg, champion of EV infrastructure. As you vote, the criteria are originality, potential impact, and commercial viability. Keep those in mind. Okay, we have the result. The vote for One Planet Forward Innovator. The idea here that's grabbed the audience's imagination, that they think is bold and different and can make a difference. Move the planet forward. Well, who would that person be? Would they be in the room? Did they travel far? Do they work in their own backyard? Would it be Arkansas or Al Dahlberg or the innovator is Danny Kennedy and Sungevity.
Thank you.
Have you ever been a declared Innovator of the Year before?
No, it's a great privilege.
What are you going to do with this great honor?
Spread some sunshine, you know?
All right, guys, I'll give you a chance to talk directly to Danny. What ideas, questions, comments, criticisms do you have for him? Governor?
Well, I just want to say congratulations for innovating on this financial piece because, as has been said, innovation comes from all places. It can come from science, it can come from finance, and if you can figure out how to overcome people's resistance and their pocketbooks, then you have really done something, and I congratulate you.
Thank you, yeah.
Well, it's you mentioned the hassle factor in the video, I think, and that's the key thing. You know, we had our home retrofitted last year. We had done some initial stuff on our 1930 funky Hudson Valley farmhouse. It was hard, even for me. I've been writing about energy and climate for 25 years, and it was still like, how do we do this? So it's a great thing to be pushing on.
Bottom line?
Yeah. Danny, I have a question for you. Clearly, in a place like California where grid power is relatively expensive and sunshine is relatively abundant, the model seems to work. How broadly applicable is it? Can we use it in other geographies?
Absolutely. We're already in 3 states. We're coming here to the Northeast this year, in April, in fact. So this very auspicious award.
The Hudson Valley?
We'll be up in New York and throughout the Northeast. And you know, the sun hours isn't the limiting factor. Germany has 50% of the world's solar. It is the background economics that matter. And the fact of the matter is, with the financing arrangement we've got, we can make it a win-win-win. Our investors make money, we sell solar, and the customer's saving money. 60% of our 1,000 customers to date have been putting money into their back pocket already. And over the life of their lease, they'll definitely be net cash flow positive because of it.
Danny, one of the things we're going to do is, as part of this, is we're going to follow you online. We're going to give you your own Planet Forward flip camera so you can shoot your way as you go, and we'll track that. What challenges have you set for yourself? What goal have you set for yourself, ambitious goal, for the next year?
We're going to 3x our business over the next year. So we're
3 times?
Yep. We're going to install and sell 15 megawatts of solar in 2011, and we're going to be doing that in up to 10 states.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.
We've talked a lot about these innovations that have come from all over the country from people who brought them to Planet Forward. What we haven't talked about is innovations in traditional fuels, in natural gas, in nuclear power, in internal combustion engines, diesel engines, because there are plenty of innovators going to work on those technologies as well. So give us some context here in terms of where you think the innovation is in these areas as well. Tom?
There's no one answer to our energy needs for the future. Professor Sokolow at Princeton talks about wedges in a pie, if you will. We need to be working in solar, we need to be working in biofuels, but we need to be working in other areas as well. And certainly conventional power, nuclear power, use of natural gas, all of these are wedges in our future energy pie. We need to be working everywhere.
My buddy Matt Wald at the New York Times recently wrote about liquefied natural gas. You know, you think about vehicles, it's mostly compressed natural gas that's in vehicles now, but liquefied, big trucks can be running on natural gas, which of course comes with big questions about how you get out of the ground in ways that are environmentally responsible. So that involves innovation as well.
Governor Granholm?
I would say the next innovation has to be policy innovation that really distributes the ability for people to become their own energy entrepreneurs. If you can put solar panels on your house and make money at it like they do in Germany and in Ontario and in other places, then you really will have started to spread the ability for us as a nation to be energy independent. I'd say one other thing too that I think is very important on the industrial side, the ability to do combined heat and power to reduce the cost of operating a plant by using waste heat, for example, to put right back in and power the plant, I think is an opportunity that the United States has not fully grasped yet, as it has in other countries.
Now it's your turn, our audience at home, to choose your top innovator from the remaining 6. Visit Planet Forward at pbs.org. Judge for yourself and cast your vote. This innovator will be announced on our site, Planet Forward at pbs.org, and on the Nightly Business Report, which airs on many public stations nationwide, on Thursday, May 5th. We'll follow our innovators online and on television. The discussion on energy innovation continues, but soon we'll add a new topic. Our focus then, how communities can go green, build better, adapt to climate change that's already taking place. And again, your ideas, your innovations will drive the conversation and will be brought directly to top decision makers. Learn more at Planet Forward. Thanks very much to our panel. Thank you, Jennifer Granholm, Andy Revkin, and Tom Connolly, for your great words this evening. I'm Frank Sesno. On behalf of the Planet Forward team, thanks for watching.
To see more videos and vote for your favorites, go to Planet Forward on pbs.org. New videos are posted regularly. Join the discussion, submit a video, help us shape the next show. Planet Forward on pbs.org. To order a DVD of this program, call 1-800-873-6154. Planet Forward is a presentation of Maryland Public Television, the George Washington University Public Affairs Project, and Nebraska Educational Television, which are solely responsible for its content. Funding for Planet Forward was provided by Tawani Foundation, the National Science Foundation, the Innovation Agency, Noblus, helping clients promote sustainability by reducing emissions, improving energy efficiency, and transforming workplace practices. Noblus at noblus.org. Volkswagen Group, at home in America, committed to our customers through investment, social and environmental responsibility.
Be more. PBS.
Try it without the CD, please, Adam.
The mystery of music and the brain. Pulling power from the music. Can music unlock the mysteries of the brain? On Nova, Musical Minds.
Nova is next.
Welcome to the 2011 Video in the Classroom Awards. This year's videos demonstrate full participation by students in the learning process. Some productions are funny, others urge activism, but they are all truly deserving of the 2011 Video in Classroom Awards.
Tuesday at 8.
Despite all the studies, the conferences, the reports, despite all the money, resources, and expertise poured into schools, the achievement gap remains. In 2007, the communities whose children actually make up the achievement gap came together in forums around the country. They saw a gap that involved more than test scores, and they saw solutions that involved more than schools.
Tuesday at 9:30.
Real people, independent voices, untold stories.
I'm not afraid. I'm journalist. I'm brave.
A window into the world. Local communities, global connections, new perspectives.
And we must take the power back.
See for yourself on Global Voices.
Tuesday at 10.
Next time on Nature. Victoria Falls. They call it the smoke that thunders.
People use many fancy words when they talk about Victoria, but words mean nothing when you are near her. It is like you are standing on the edge of the world.
Tonight at 10.
Some people have it, and others just don't.
This has been argued for 2.5 centuries and probably continue to be argued.
Music on the brain. Why are some of us hardwired to love music, to write music, to make music?
In C.
Some people have got it and some people haven't got it. And you've got it, Derek.
Yes.
4 amazing cases take us on a journey to find an answer. Can we unlock the mysteries of musical minds? Right now on Nova.